Welcome everyone to my class pad. I just mentioned I want to get this on the recording here. I am recording this, so you will be able to find all of this later on in my on my site. I have a lot to cover, and it looks like this may be a record-breaking crowd for me. So that's kind of exciting. A little nervous when I saw how many people were signed up. I know that not everybody can make it, but they did say that they wanted to watch it later on, and any member of my site can watch. So, and not everyone's going to show, but it's kind of neat to see everybody register for it. So, all right. So what this class is going to be on is basically getting started with the iPad. What I'm going to do now is spotlight my video here so you basically see me. And spotlight. All right. So I'll start out with how this started. And yes, thank you for enabling transcriptions. How this started was a few years ago, well, maybe about a year ago. You know, I've been doing these classes and webinars for a while, and training on the Mac, the iPad, and the iPhone. And I've always been a Mac person, and I have a member, Kevin, who would ask me iPad questions and have an answer for him sometimes, and sometimes I still don't. But it kind of sparked an interest, and same thing with the school. I just saw that they were using laptops, MacBook Airs, and it kind of like maybe they could use just all iPads, about half the price, you know, that kind of thing. So basically what I did is I made a commitment where I am going to use my iPad. I went out and bought a new iPad Pro, a smaller one. The 12.9 was a little bit larger. I'm going to mute everyone. You need to ask a question, you'll have to unmute yourself. I do kind of run this a little bit free form, so just unmute yourself. All right. So basically what I did is I went through and, oops, mute all participants, yes, there we go. Okay, so I went through and I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to start using the iPad. And it could be anywhere from, browsing and things like that. We kind of use the iPad. I think everyone thinks of the iPad as a grown-up iPhone, and I still know people that think that. But really, it's more than just a reading device. I mean, you can do a lot more with it. And if you're not an artist, I know other people will use it because they can draw on it and things like that. I'm not an artist, and I say this with all honesty, it is my go-to device when I'm just kind of need to do something, look something up, or I want to write and go through my emails. Typically what I will do is I will do that all on my iPad. And the reason is it's just super convenient. I do have a new MacBook Air, M1 MacBook Air. It's not one of the new ones, but that thing's small as well, and I could grab that. But for some odd reason, the iPad just feels I can just like throw it on the couch. I wouldn't throw a MacBook Air on the couch. Today we went somewhere. Our power went out earlier today, so I couldn't get out of the garage because it's a detached garage, and we had to go somewhere. So we rode in our Volt. Beth was getting her hair cut, and I just took my iPad and I did a little bit of work while waiting for her. I wouldn't have done that with the Air. I know that I could, but I would have put, I'd have to get a case on it, this, that, and the other, and the iPad just is super convenient. So that's what I did, and that is basically my go-to item. What we are going to cover in this class, you're going to see is quite a bit here. I'll try to not go too fast, but these are basically some tips that I've found that help me use the iPad and basically almost use it as a laptop. And in a lot of cases, it is my laptop. And so some of the things we're going to look at, accessorize, that's a keyboard tips, things like that. Some home screen options, how to set the icons larger. You can duplicate apps, you use widgets. Widgets can be very powerful. Focus mode is kind of nice. It's a little thing that people probably don't realize what you can do with it, so I'll give you a little tips to how it can help you be more productive. Tip is use simple backgrounds so you can find your apps easy. Use Safari instead of Chrome. There's reasons why, I'll go through some of those reasons why you want to use Safari. And you're not missing anything out by using Safari as opposed to Chrome, unlike the desktop. It uses a different engine on the desktop. Chrome uses WebKit just like Safari on the iPad. Basic multitasking. It's really not that complicated, and it can make things easier. You can drag and drop, things like that with it. You can open up multiple windows. I'll end with going through, explore some apps. There's some really cool apps out there, and vice versa. In some cases, there's some apps out there where you just want to access them through Safari. So I'll go through why you may want to do that as well. This class was open to everyone, so there are probably some people that are not members of my site. Typically they are closed, or they're going to be closed in the near future. But I wanted to, for the people who I'm Dan Wasink. I am owner, trainer, everything with Dan's Tutorials. Basically what I do is I create easy to follow video tutorials on how to use the Mac, iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, and Apple TV. And they're all on danstutorials.com. I also do put them on YouTube as of recent, but with the YouTube you get the little ads and things like that. So if you want to have a real nice experience, this site is where you really want to go, and it offers a few, keep track of what lessons you've taken, take notes, different things like that. And you can request lessons. I just added that to the site. So there's little things, little perks for being a member, as they say. I'm a former Apple genius. I've been in publishing for probably 30 years. Yeah, 30 years. Might even gone up to 35 now. And I also help out at a local school that has about 1,600 Apple devices. So that's a little bit about me. If you like what you see here, check out my site. There's my cell. Now, let's get going to the iPad. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Accessorize. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to go to my iPad here. This is an overview so you can see my iPad. So this is the iPad that I'm going to be working with. And, whoops, I need Face ID there. All right. So basically with this iPad here, you're going to see I have a smart, and then I also do have the pencil. And what I recommend doing is, if you have an iPad, what you are going to want to do is get these accessories. And you don't have to, this smart keyboard from Apple, it's expensive. And it's nice, but it's not, I'm going to say it's not the nicest. You don't have to go with an Apple keyboard. The reason why you might want to go with one is, it's strange, I find it strange. There's no volume, nothing, no media keys, nothing up here. There's not even an escape key for this. So you are actually missing keys by going with Apple's smart keyboard. It's really not that smart. So you can go with any Bluetooth keyboard. Now what makes the smart keyboard nice is it's just super convenient. I just fold it up and it's ready to go. It's held on with magnets, so I can just pull it up and use it as a tablet. So it does have its advantages, but it's, I'm going to say it's not the perfect keyboard by any means. But you'll want to go with a keyboard, and you can go with any Bluetooth keyboard. I have this keyboard here. I could hook up this keyboard to it with no problem. This is a Bluetooth keyboard. Any Bluetooth keyboard. Also, any mouse, any trackpad, Bluetooth will work with it. And I highly recommend going with a mouse or a trackpad to give you that Mac-like experience. And I'm going to switch over to my iPad here so you can see. If you look, you're going to see I have this little cursor here. That is my trackpad. When I am going over, you're going to see my, let's move it back here a little bit. There we go. You can see, it's just kind of, use this just like any other. I open up my settings app. I swipe up with 3 fingers, and it uses a lot of the same gestures as what the Mac does. So if you're coming from a Mac, it's going to feel like it's at home. So keyboard, mouse are absolutely critical, I think, if you're going to use this as a full-time device, or even, a time device, 30 hours a week, a part-timer kind of thing. It really does make a difference. But and again, you don't have to use this all the time. The other thing that you may want to get, and I know it starts getting pricey when you do all this, but the nice thing about this is, as you upgrade, if you stay with the same size iPad and all that, a lot of times you can just use the same keyboard. You can use the same pencil, which was what I'm going to talk about. You can use all of these devices with the new iPad. So basically, you only have to buy the keyboard once for the most part, and then you can just upgrade. So I am seriously thinking of upgrading this iPad 12.9. This is not an M1. It will not run Apple's new Stage Manager because it's not an M1. And if I go to a larger iPad, I want to have that. So what I'm able to do, even though this keyboard here is I can still buy the new M1 and it will work with this keyboard. Doesn't always happen that way, but it's working with this smart keyboard. So accessorize, pencil. A lot of people will be like, well, I'm not an artist. And I'm not an artist. I'll go right out there. I mean, my goal as a kid was to draw for Disney. I love Disney, and that was what I wanted to do, was be an artist. It's not there. So why would I want to use a pencil? Cursor control. I'm just swiping on that screen. I want to open up the settings app. I go up, I go down. I can write with it. I go into my, I'll just use that, notes, and I want to create a new note. I'm doing this with my left hand, so don't be right. You're going to see it says hi, and I could go Apple. That's with my left hand. And what it'll do with this is it will actually index that. It recognizes your handwriting, and then you can search for that. So I'd be able to search. Search isn't going to be good because I probably have so much stuff in here about Apple. But here, let's do this. I'll go Piper. So Tom Piper is here. So what I'm able to do now is go to a different note, and let's say that I wanted to search for that note. Actually, we'll go here. You're going to see it pulled up. Here, let me go to my iPad here. You're going to see that it pulled up Tom Piper. So it recognized, and what's that?
And you found me.
Yep. So it recognizes your handwriting. I mean, I can't guarantee that for everyone, but it does recognize your handwriting. On top of that, what you're able to do, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, and then we'll zoom in on the iPad. You can, what they call it, scribble. So if I go to a website, and let's say that, so we have the URL up here. And what I'm able to do is actually take my pencil and I can write in here, and then the iPad will go to that site. So I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to zoom in, but basically I'm just going to go in here and write, but you're going to see what's going to happen here. So you can see, now I want to go to Dan's tutorials. And now it's going to search for Dan's tutorials. So you can actually use this pencil. You can actually use this pencil as a writing thing. One of my favorite apps, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but one of my favorite apps is GoodNotes. And with GoodNotes, what you are able to do is create a new, create. And you can sit here and draw, do whatever. You have all these, it's basically you're drawing. I want to add a new page, I can add a new page. So they've done studies where if you write something down, there's a better connect with your brain, like you'll remember it. You know, the pencil, having an Apple Pencil will help that out. So you can use, and GoodNotes is free. Can't beat that. So accessorize. The thing with the Apple Pencil, if you do go with a smart case, this is a little tip. If you go with a smart case, the problem that, this is why I say it's not that smart. The problem with it is, I put it on top there, right? Oh, that's cool. Charges it, that's how you charge it. It's magnetic, but you're carrying this thing around and all of a sudden, my $100 pencil. So what do? You know, you don't really want to, that's convenient, but I would not call that a permanent place to, if you have a smart keyboard. So what do? I went to Amazon and found, you can see it right on the back there. It's just a little sticky thing there. And essentially this is how I carry my pencil around. So now when I need to use it, I pull it out. You'd be amazed at how fast it charges it. So you can just put it on top here for, I'm not kidding, for a minute. And it will get probably, you know, enough charge to where you can use that thing for quite a long time. It charges extremely fast. So my first thing is if you're really going to do this, I know it's more money, but if you want to have that good experience, accessorize. You know, you can go with other keyboards. You don't have to go with Apple's, which are expensive. There's a cheaper pencil as well that you can go with. I believe the brand is Crayola, and it's a little bit cheaper than what Apple's is, although Apple's is a nice pencil, of course. But
you need a new keyboard on this thing.
yeah, there's some really cool. Bridge makes a neat keyboard which has a trackpad. It makes it more app-like. You know, it's aluminum, makes it a little heavier. But again, you can remove the screen from it and use the iPad as an iPad. And I accessorize.
Dan,
Yeah.
I have an older iPad Pro with a pencil, and they need to know that the older pencil will not work on the latest iPad Air or Pro. And it's only like $29 more for the latest pencil. And that's the one that I think you have that's magnetized. Yeah. And it does a couple of other tricks that I haven't figured out yet, but I'm determined to use it more often.
Yeah, definitely the older one, it's a nice pencil, but it doesn't have the magnetic thing on it. But like I say, you can find little, this thing couldn't have been that much money at Amazon, and I think it came with 3. My personal iPad, this is not my personal iPad, also has it because, like I say, it came with 3. What this one has on it, oops, there we go. What this one has on it is I can, write with it, and then if I want to erase, I double tap, and it turns into an eraser. I double tap again, and it's back into writing. And
does something have to be turned on? Because I tried tapping on it. Maybe I didn't double tap, so I'll work on that later.
I'll show you this. If you go now, I'll admit I'm using iPad OS 16 on here. So if everything that I went through, I don't think there's that much of a difference. So you're not going to see any iPad OS 16, except for right here. You might see. I can't remember if this is with iPad OS 15, but when you go to Apple Pencil here, I'll go show the iPad. So I'm at the Apple Pencil here. You're going to see I have, different settings here. And basically what you can do is you can set how you want it to switch between them and what you want it to do when you double tap on it. So the first thing is go through here and see see if those are set right. Another thing that I thought was kind of cool, and I can't remember if this is in iPad OS, iPad OS 15. So this might be new, but I'll show you what you can do with a pencil in iPad OS 16. And if somebody can tell me if you can do this in iPad OS 15, that'd be awesome. So scribble. This is where I go and, like I went to that website and I said Dan's tutorial, I went and scribbled, right? And everyone probably knows that it's tough to edit on an iPad. Now, with a keyboard and a trackpad, it makes it a little bit easier because you have your trackpad and you can select and all that, just like you can on a Mac, or with a mouse you can do that. but also you can do it with the pencil. So when I go to scribble here, they're giving you a little demo here, but basically all I have to do, let's say I wanted to remove the word scratch. All I have to do is just scribble it out. I'm going to do that. And I just removed it. I'm going to remove the word delete. I'll show you on my overhead. And it removed it. So you can, easily use the pencil for editing and things like that. Select. You want to select a word. All you have to do is just circle it. You can also draw a line through it. So let's say I wanted to select the word draw, the first word in that sentence. Oops, I circled the A too. But you can select multiple words. Or let's say I wanted to select word or circle, the three words, word or circle. I draw a line through it. Oops, I did it again because it's at an odd angle for me, but you get the idea. You can insert spaces in there and then just draw, just like what they're doing there. I can join, put a vertical line in there, and this is all done with this guy. So you can still use, let's say you're typing in Pages or Word or Notes or whatever, and using the keyboard. And now you need to go through and edit and all that. Just grab your pencil and circle the words you want to delete, and it'll delete it. Grab your pencil and select words, and it'll select it, and then you can go and fix them. So the pencil...
Is Apple Pencil an app?
No, it's just this.
Okay.
This guy.
I just wondered how it arrived on your screen.
Well, this, like I say, this Try Scribble, I'm not sure if that is an iPad OS 16. You might not get that. But the pencil itself, all you have to do to pair it is just place it. So this was a new pencil that I got just for this. Actually, I've had it for a while. I've just never paired it because I've been meaning to create a tutorial on the Apple Pencil. But to pair this, all you do is, in this one here, you just place it on top, and then it said, oh, new pencil. Let's run through the setup. With older ones, you might have to do something else a little bit different. But it's built into the physical pencil. So, and it is a special pencil, obviously.
Yes.
Someone told me, my brother-in-law, we went to a wedding in Little Rock, so I was talking with him, and he investigates fires out in West. He travels a lot, carries an iPad around with him. So he writes a lot on the iPad. That's his go-to item. And he told me that this tip comes off. And what he did is he bought a new glass-like tip or whatever, and he said that it makes the experience even that much better. He feels like it really is drawing with a pencil, and this just screws on and off. So that is, back to the Accessorize. You can even change the tip on the Apple Pencil to get even a smoother experience.
Pen tip makes that replaceable tip very nice.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on here. Like I say, I have a lot to cover here. All right, home screen options. So now we're going to talk about the home screen and what you can do to make things a little bit nicer, a little bit easier, that kind of thing. The first thing I would recommend doing, I shouldn't say I recommend, but one thing you can do is you can make these icons larger. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older, my eyes. I just went to the eye doctor, and I've got to get these things a new prescription. It could be that. But basically, if you go to the Settings app, under Home Screen, you're going to see at the very top, Use Large App Icons. And this is just a little tip. So we'll look at the app icons right now. It doesn't take up any more room, so it's not going to move your apps or anything like that. So right now I can fit, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 24 apps, 6 times 4. I'm still going to be able to fit the same number of apps on here, but it just makes everything a little bit larger. Not the text, but the app icons. And I don't know, it's just more pleasing on the eye for me. So I go over here, I turn it on, and now you can see the apps icons are just a little bit larger. I personally like that. Another thing you can do is add widgets. I've become a big fan of these widgets. And the reason is it can extend how you use the iPad. So you're going to see right now I'm looking at my notes. So these are my most recent notes. If I wanted to open up any one of these, all I have to do is just tap on it and I can open it up. Or if I wanted to create a new one, let's see here. No, open it up, and then I can create a new one. So it just gives you a shortcut to your most recent notes. If I swipe, this widget here is actually a stack of widgets. So if I swipe, there's my contacts. And I can change what contacts are in here. So if I tap and hold, you're going to see Edit Contacts. I'm able to select which contacts are in this widget. So I could have, my family, and then when I go to work, which I'll talk about shortly, because you can actually have multiple screens with, one for work and one for home. You could have work contacts in one stack and home contacts in another. I swipe again. Here's my calendar. I tap on it, it opens up. I can see what is going on today, and then I also have tomorrow there. So I can easily see what's going on. And then I have the Files app. So here are my most recent files. So widgets can really make things a lot easier. You don't have to go into an app. You can access this stuff. In fact, the Files widget here is almost like it's a Finder. Almost. Don't get me wrong, it's not, but it could almost be. And what you can do with this is you can select which folder you want. Right now I'm looking at recents, so what I'd be able to do is say, well, I don't want recents. I'd like to have my downloads folder. There's my downloads folder. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'd like to have both. Okay. Just go and add another widget here. Files. And we're going to go with, you can see I have different size widgets here. We're going to go with the same one. And actually, I'm going to put this one down here. And with this one, I want it to point to a different folder. So I could have this one. We're going to keep this one at recents, and this one's on my downloads. And let's go and put these side by side. So now I have two different folders sitting on my desktop. We can take this a step further and create different home screens. So like I said, this could be my work, and let's put this, I actually have multiple home screens on here. So this could be this is my personal, this could be my work. Let's just go with that. So what I want to do is place this widget here on that. So now it's stacked with that. Oops, I moved that one there. We'll move that one back up. So now I'm at home, I'm at work. But wouldn't it be great if I could change, if it would change for me automatically? For those of us that work at a physical location, what you can do is you can have your home screens change depending on where you are. This is part of the focus. You can also have it time-based, or even when you open up an application. You open up an application, it'll switch over to a different focus. And the way that works, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two different focuses here. So I'm going to go with a personal one, so when I'm at home here, and we're going to go with work. Let's just call this one school. So I go to my settings app, and what we need to do is go to focus. This was added in iPad OS 15, I believe. So here's all the different focuses, and you can create more. You tap on the plus, you can create more. But I already have a school one and a leisure one. So let's say the leisure one, what I want it to do, you're going to see it says customize screens. What I want it to do is go to the first screen. I would also like it to go to I want these two screens. So it's just going to have those two, right? That one and that one. Now, for school, I have my school one here and these two. So this has some school stuff. This has some Google apps and all that because the schools use Google. So basically, I'd like to have those. And let's just throw that, well, let's keep that one out. So now, when I'm at school, what it'll do is it'll show this one, and when I'm at home, it'll show that one. So how do I switch those? Well, I can go to the control center and switch it here. So here I can go and I'm at the school. You can see it switched in the background. I'm back at home. It just switched back to the other one. But we can also make that geography based. So if I go to school and turn on automatically here, based on time, location, or an app. So I would put in here location, and then I would put in the address of where I work. And as soon as I go to that address, the iPad will automatically switch to that. And then as soon as I leave that, it'll automatically switch back to where it was. And you can create multiple focuses. The other thing you can do with this, because we use the iPad for, I dare say, it started out as a consumption device. We read with it. We can open up books. We can open up Kindle. Kindle has an app. And they do have that on the Mac as well, those different apps. But I don't think a lot of people use a Mac to read, that kind of thing. Where with the iPad, it is a little bit more of a consumption device. So what you are able to do with the work, let's go to school here. I can actually say, I only want notifications from these specific people. So it can take that and make it into more of a work device. So my brother works at a company over in New Zealand, and what he would be able to do is just say, I only want to have communication from his wife and maybe his coworkers or things like that. Same thing with the apps. He can set which apps are going to notify him. So he's not going to get a notification from Kindle, things like that. So you can hone it down not only with the home screens, but with your different notifications from people and from apps. So I think that can really help as well, especially for people that work off-site. I work at home, but I do use it at the school. In all honesty, I have a focus, and my phone and iPad will automatically go into that focus mode as soon as I hit the school. And then when I leave the school, it goes back. It switches apps. It does all the fancy stuff that I'm kind of showing you here. And you can even set one up for reading. So as soon as you open up the Books app, remember how I said that you could trigger this focus mode based on different things. If you do it based on the Books app or the Kindle app, you could add both. Essentially what's going to happen then is you can set it to where you will only receive notifications from specific people or from nobody. Right now I have it to where Beth is the only one that can, if I'm reading, she's the only one that can get a hold of me. If my mom were to call, it wouldn't do anything. If my sister were to call, if someone at the school were to call, it wouldn't do anything. I'm reading, and it can keep you focused, hence the name. But I think it also can help, with productivity on the iPad. Another thing you can do, we'll keep going with this focus mode here a little bit. So I need to turn that off. Okay, so now I have all my screens again. Let's say that you have an app that you use in both cases. So a good example would be Notes. I have Notes here. This is for my leisure. But I also use Notes for school. But if Notes is on the first screen and it's hidden when I'm in focus in the school mode, I'm not going to be able to get to my notes. So what do? Well, basically what you can do is you can install an app more than once. Basically what you're doing is you're creating an alias to it or a shortcut to it, and you can place it on multiple screens. So I have it here on the first screen, the Notes app, and I want to add it to this screen. All I have to do is just search for it, and I just drag it out. So I'm going to drag it out. And now Notes is on that screen, so I'm at the school, I can access my notes. I'm at home, I can access my notes. And we can do that with any app. So I could install Notes on every single one of these screens. So that's another nice little trick that probably isn't done too often, but if you use multiple home screens, you can place them into different folders. Maybe you have a work folder. I don't know if I have any folders in here. So let's go and create a folder. I'm just going to drag this into here, and we're going to put Notes in there. Oh, I have a folder down in my dock. So I have my folder there with my notes. But let's say I'm in this folder. I need to access my notes. Well, instead of tapping out, going here, going to the notes, tapping out, going here, going to the notes, what I'm able to do, take this, add it to this folder, and now there's my notes. And if I'm in this folder, there's my notes.
Dan,
Same
can
notes.
you have different sets of notes?
No, you can't do that.
Okay.
It's the same app. Yep. I was just going to clarify that. Yep.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it doesn't. It won't keep separate notes. But you may be able to with the widgets. If I go to my widgets here, let's see if I can modify this widget. And this is one of the things I say at the end is explore. With this Notes app here, this is in the widget. If I tap and hold, this is how I was able to set what the Files app, what folder it pointed to. If I go to Edit Notes, here I can tell it to go to a specific folder. So essentially what you could do is set up widgets. I could add this Notes widget, which goes to my home notes, and I could add the same widget here, which points to my school notes. So then depending on where I'm at, you know, when you tap on it, it's going to show you notes from a specific folder.
Yeah, that works.
The other thing that I recommend doing is, this is something relatively simple, but keep a simple background. It sounds crazy, but if I put a complicated background on this, I think it makes it harder to see the apps, and it annoys me. And I think Apple kind of has seen that too. If you were to put iOS 16, doesn't do it on the iPad, but with iOS 16, what you can do, see if I have it, I'll show you. So we'll go this way. There's my phone, right? Everything's all nice and sharp and all that. But when I swipe up, it's all blurry. So that makes the apps much easier when you have a simple background. So if you're going to use the iPad, and I would say this on the Mac as well. This is not an iPad thing, but it's just a little tip that I'm kind of thinking, what would I do? What would I recommend people? This is kind of what this class is like. What would I recommend? Simple background, you know. Not a lot of colors, not a lot of lines or whatever, and make it softer. What you could do is, if you know anything about Photoshop, or there's a lot of apps out there that you can blur it, make it blurry. And with the wallpaper, I'll go to my iPad here. So I'm in the Settings app. What you are able to do is have two different images here. So you could put the sharper image. Let's say it's, let's say I find a picture of my wife, Beth. I could put that on the first one here. So then when the iPad is locked, I get that nice picture. But then when I open it up, it's more of a blurry background, so she's not competing with my apps, and what I'm trying to do. So I really like a simple background, and you don't have to have a simple background on the main screen. I could go and change this to something else if I wanted to, but the app background screen, I highly recommend a simple background. Also, dark appearance dims wallpaper. Yes. So when you go into when it goes into dark mode, the background will also be a little bit darker. Contrast. It's just good. It goes along with making things easier to see. And as my eyes are getting older, I'm all about trying to, so I don't have to squint, and that kind of thing. So.
Dan, can I ask a note question?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're writing notes, you want to add a lot of notes to one note. Mm-hmm. But then there are times you just want to have one entry. But to change it back and forth, you have to go back to settings, go to notes, and then tell the notes that you only want it to come up multiple times. Is there a shortcut for that?
So what he's talking about, that you're talking about the quick notes, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So with iPad OS 15, they introduced quick notes. I can be in an app. Let's go with the settings app. And if I drag from the lower right-hand corner here, if I drag out, try it again, I get a note. That's called quick notes. So essentially what he's talking about is I can go in here and type whatever I want in there, and when I go back, it disappears. I go into my app store. I want to create a new note. I go from the lower left-hand corner again, and it's pulling up that same note. But what you can also do is have it pull up a new note instead of the same note, and that is in the settings. If you go to Notes Settings, there's a setting there where you can set it to always create a new note or append to the existing note. And there's no other way. So what he's asking is there an easier way of switching between those? And as far as I know, there's no other way. I go to Notes here, and somewhere in here, corner gestures. Nope.
No, it's back.
Yeah. Doesn't look like there is not anything in there. Resume last quick note. That's it. I can turn it on and off. So maybe an iPad OS 17. So.
Would be nice.
Yeah. No, it would be. Because sometimes you want to append an existing note, and other times. Right. Now what you could do is, use the widgets here. Wrong screen. Use the widgets there. You could do that. But yes, I could see where that would be a nice feature. All right. Settings. I just have a couple that I want to talk about, and I actually mentioned them, and we went through one of them. Focus. I had this under my focus, but I had it in two different spots. But you'll also want to minimize your notifications, and if I go to my settings app, the reason why you want to minimize your notifications is because we can, on the phone, we've all seen it. We get 20 million different notifications, and it can be distracting. And if you're trying to use this as your main device, you're just going to get bombarded with possibly notifications. So what I recommend doing is going into the notifications here. First of all, set up your focus if you want, and you don't, focus is nice, but it's not for everybody. There's a complexity to it. But what you can also do here is set a scheduled summary. With scheduled summary, what it'll do is if an app has any notifications, it'll come at a specific time. So like first thing in the morning, what happens is I get a little thing of all the different notifications that came in through the night. So they're not going to bombard me all the time. They're just going to be in a scheduled, and you can set up multiple schedules here. So this one here is 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. And you can actually see how many times an app has sent a notification. So my TV app has sent me 17 notifications. I don't want to see those. I don't care if if I want to see that an episode of something has been released or whatever, I'll go to the Apple TV and look. I don't need this on my iPad. So I just go, boom. I will no longer get that in my weekly notification. So there, I won't get any of those in my scheduled summary. Then what you'll also want to do is go in here. So I know that Apple TV is sending me, where is it? TV. I would go over here and turn that off as well. I believe, yeah, it's set for immediate delivery. I want it for scheduled. You can do that. So now instead of an immediate delivery, it's going to tell me first thing in the morning that an episode was released yesterday or something like that. Or maybe it'll tell me at 8 o'clock at night that something was released earlier today. So you'll want to go in here, kind of a pain in the butt, but you can go in here with each one of these and say, Apple Store. I don't need to know the Apple Store. I don't need those notifications immediately. I can put them in my scheduled summary. Or maybe you don't want them at all. Just turn it off. And then you're not going to get any notifications. So the idea is reduce those notifications. And you kind of have to go through it, but it's not, just got to go through them one by one, and it won't be too bad. This one here goes back to something I mentioned with the keyboard. So with the keyboard, I mentioned that it doesn't have an escape key here. And that's actually, to me, that's a real problem. Reason is you're watching a YouTube video. You want to get out of that video. You're watching anything. How do you do that? On a Mac, you hit the escape key. I don't know how many of you know that, but the way of getting out of something is using the escape key or escaping out of it. Well, you can't do that on the iPad because there's no escape key. So what do? Well, you have to use a gesture or something along that line. Well, what you can do is you can remap keys. And you can turn one of the existing keys here into an escape key. And this here is, like I say, if you're used to using it to do this with a smart keyboard. If you go with another keyboard, it's going to have an escape key. Like I say, you can go with a bridge or anything else, and they will probably have an escape key. For some odd reason, Apple decided that this thing doesn't need it. So how
Bridge does have an escape key, yes. It
Bridge,
does.
yeah.
Bridge.
Yep. I would dare say anything. It's weird that this doesn't. Or the volume keys. I would love to have a volume here. I don't like going up here all the time. I'd like to have it just. But anyway, what you can do is you can remap these keys. And the way that you do that is you go to your general settings, and then you go to keyboard, and you're going to see, I think it's under here. Yep, modifier keys. Yeah, okay. So I'll start over. So I'm in the keyboard settings here. And if you go to hardware keyboard up at the top, we have all the different things for this specific keyboard. So I'm going to assume that this may change, depending on what keyboard you have. But down at the bottom, I have modifier keys. And when I go to modifier keys, what I'm able to do is change, specific keys, not everything. And what I did is I changed the caps lock key to an escape key. How often do we use cap lock? I mean, of course, I'm not a super typist or anything like that, so I don't know all the tricks of the trade, but the only time I use caps lock is when I accidentally turn it on. So what this will do is, if I tap on this, what I'm able to do is say I want the caps lock key to be my escape key. So now, if I'm in a YouTube video, and I'll turn the volume down here, we will go with this one here. I'm going to go full screen, and we'll show overview. So I want to escape out of this. Well, I have to tap on it. I have to tap on the X, this, that, and the other. Or caps lock key. It escapes right out. And it works for other functions too, but that's primarily what I use out of a video. So you can
Dan,
remap those
that with
keys.
the pencil?
What's that?
Can you remap that with the pencil?
I don't think so. I don't
I mean,
think so.
if you touch the caps lock key with the pencil, can you turn that into
Oh,
an
yeah,
key?
because the pencil, the caps lock key, I mean, it's a physical, this is for a physical keyboard. So I mean, yeah, I can,
But it'd be nice if you could just tap it with
yeah,
with your pencil.
yeah. If I tap the screen, it doesn't do it, but obviously I can, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have to tap, and then I go up to the X in the upper left-hand corner.
Right.
And it'll do it. But just hit the escape key, or just hit the escape key with your pencil. I mean, sorry, caps lock key. See, I even have it, now I have it in my head that it's the escape key and not even a caps lock. So, what else do we have? Okay, so Safari. With Safari, what I would recommend not using other browsers. You can. I have other browsers on here, and it's nice, you know, just to see if you're logged into something and you want to see what it looks like logged out and this, that, and the other. But as your default browser, what you want to do is use Safari. Why? Well, every other browser on an iPad uses the same engine as Safari. So you're not getting any advantage per se. Like on the Mac, Safari uses WebKit. Firefox uses, is it Mozilla or is that the owner? But they use something else. And Chrome uses Chromium. If you use Edge from Microsoft, it's based on the Chromium engine. So it renders things a little bit different. It could render it faster, it could render it slower. That's why some of the plugins don't work on a Mac as they do on, because it's a different engine. And so on the iPad, it's the same exact. Apple does not allow, which is a bone of contention with some people, but Apple does not allow any other type of engine to run their browsers. So basically, when you're running Chrome, it's just a skin over top of Safari. You're not getting necessarily an advantage outside of, you know, the look. Maybe you prefer the look of Chrome, and of course, if you sign in with Chrome, you get a few different features. You know, I think you can have multiple profiles with Edge and with Chrome, which Safari doesn't have. But the problem with that is Safari offers some features that Chromium doesn't. That Chrome and other browsers don't. First of all, desktop class website. And what do I mean by that? Well, if I go to Airtable, Airtable is a database that I use. It's an online database. They have an app. And of course, they have a website. So I'm going to open up their app, and I'm getting used to it, but this is their app. So I have all of my lessons in a calendar. Well, there's the calendar. Okay, that's okay. I can tap on this and I can see what was on there, and you know, it looks nice. I want to go to the 5th. I can do that. I can change my views here. Oops. See, I don't even know. You know, there. I can change my views. So it's there. I am playing music there. I forgot about that. All right. So basically, it's all there. But watch what happens when I go to Safari. And I'm going to look at the same exact view, hopefully. You're going to see that I actually have the different lessons or whatever in the calendar. I don't have to tap on it to see what is in each one. So the browser is giving me a better experience than the app. And you're starting to see this more and more. For the most part, everything that we're doing is in a browser. You can access pages in a browser, numbers in a browser, Keynote. You can access Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Google Docs. All of that stuff is accessible in a browser. So you could really make everything that you do in a browser. So the idea is finding the best browser. And on the iPad, the best browser, good or bad, is Safari. And here's one of the reasons why. Let's say I wanted to make an app out of this. I don't want to have it in a browser. I want to have this as a separate app. What I do is I go up to the share icon, and if I go to add to home screen, I've now just added that. You're going to see this is an app. Well, not really, but it looks like an app. I can put it into a folder. I can do everything that I can do with an app. And when I tap on it, it opens up in full screen. You're going to see that I don't have the tabs up there. It's like it's its own app. So I can treat this just like any other app. I want to go to the Airtable in Safari. There's Safari. I want to go to Airtable in my own app. I'm going to call it an app. And you're going to see that. It even says Airtable up at the top here. So another good example. We'll just pick on my site here. I want to make an app out of this. So then I don't have all these different tabs up here and that kind of thing. And oops, let's go back there again. There we go. I want to make this an app and maybe put it in my dock. Tap on the little share icon, add to home screen, add. There it is. I want to put it in my dock. And now, when I open it up, kept all the tabs. It remembers the tabs. But basically, if I didn't have any tabs open, it would be just a separate app. So you can almost make an app-like experience. Not all websites will do this. They do have to have some little background in them, but for the most part, it makes it really, really, really nice because you can everything that we do is browser based. Well, why not try to make it an app as much as possible? And you can do that with Safari. You can't do that with Chrome, and you can't do that with Edge. You'll want to make sure that Safari is set to, where to go? Safari. So many settings. You want to make sure that Safari is set to where is it? I know it's here. Request a desktop. Where is it? Block, favorites. Show favorites bar. Show links on hover. Request, there it is. Request the desktop website. As you can see, there's a lot of settings in there. And then what it'll do is it'll try to grab the desktop website. If I don't do that, I'm going to turn this off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to Airtable. See what it did there? It told me, you need to get the app. It noticed that I'm on a mobile browser, and it says for the best experience, what you need to do is go on a desktop or a laptop or get the app. Well, being that Safari has desktop class browsing, you have to turn that on, or it is on by default. If I go and turn that on, and then I go and refresh, let's try it again. Must be cached in there. We'll just do this. I'm back in my Airtable. So now Airtable thinks that I'm on a desktop or a laptop. So you want to make sure that that is turned on.
Dan, excuse me, that looked like a calendar when you went to it. Do you use Apple's calendar?
Yes,
Or
that
do you-
Airtable is something a little bit different, and I'm thinking I'll have to do a class on it. It's a database. It's a bento file maker replacement, Tapforms 5, that kind of thing.
Okay, so not a
And yeah,
calendar.
it offers much more than what a calendar does, but also a calendar offers things so you kind of can use them in conjunction with each other.
Well, then one more question. Every time I see a Zoom link and I put the entry into Apple, I never know how to get that Zoom link into the calendar to make it easy. I have to send the email to a different computer if I'm going to use a different computer versus the calendar would be universal.
Right. So let's just say this was a Zoom link here.
Okay.
Tap and hold on it, and you're going to see copy link. I can copy
Okay.
that, and now when I go to my calendar, I can create a new event and paste that in the notes, and then that link will be there.
How simple. Thank you. I
Yep.
don't have to deal with that ICS thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, and that doesn't work all the time, but it works. It generally works really pretty good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right, let's continue on. I have a couple more things here. Yeah, we'll end with, well, I got a couple other things too, but basic multitasking. There's a lot of different ways to multitask on an iPad, and they're making it even more so with iPad OS 16. But what I would say, and it can get confusing, so start out relatively, and what do I mean by that? Because you really want to learn multitasking, because it can be your friend. So if I go back over to my iPad here, what I am able to do is, let's say I have my calendar here, and I also want to have my notes open. I want to have them open side by side. How do I do that? If I swipe up, I'm back at my thing, and then I open up my notes. This is why you may want to have your notes on several pages, because basically, let's see here, there's my notes. What I'm going to do is pull up on the dock. This is one way of doing it. I would go and find my notes, and all I have to do is just drag this out to the edge, and now there they are, side by side. This is probably the way, this has been the oldest way of doing it, is using the dock. You don't have to do that necessarily anymore. There are other ways of doing it, but if you just want to kind of get a grasp of it, you can do this with anything. I can go to Safari. I want to open up my calendar. Swipe up, take my calendar, drag it over. I could drag it over on this side. There it is, side by side. And then from here, what you're able to do is adjust the width. Drag it all the way to the edge. Now they're separate. Calendar is still open. You're going to see my calendar here, but it is now its own separate window. You can also open up a new window by going to the three dots at the very top. This was added in iPad OS 15. Now I'm using 16, so they've added some verbiage to this. So ignore that verbiage for now until you upgrade. But basically it works the same way. What I'm able to do is tap on these three dots, and then I can go to a split view, or I can go to a slide over. I don't use slide over too much, but I'll show you what that is. So with split view here, let's say I wanted to open up the Notes app. What I do is I tap on it. You would just tap on the icon. And then from here, I'm able to open up any of these apps. So now it doesn't have to be in the dock. So let's go over to my Notes, and there it is. I want to switch. What I can do is go over to the three dots and go back into full screen. Or I can even open up something in slide over. So what is slide over? Well, let's go back over here. And now what I want to do is, when we open it up in split view, especially if you're using a smaller iPad, things can get pretty small. So with slide over, what it'll do is it's like a separate window. Think of the Mac. You're basically going to have one window over top of another. So I go up to the three dots. We're going to go to a slide over. I want to have my notes as a slide over. I believe this is how it's opening that up as a slide over. So let's go back. Well, here, we'll open it up. I did it backwards. All right, so I want to have my notes as a slide over. So basically, I open up notes. I go to the three dots at the top. You're going to see slide over, so it's going to turn this app into a slide over. And now what I'd like to do is open up Safari. And now we can see it's a separate window. I can't
awesome.
place it anywhere I want. I mean, it's either on the left side or the right side. That is changing in iPad OS 16 with their Stage Manager. You're actually going to be able to have 4 apps, and you can move the windows around. It's almost Mac-like, almost. But I
Do you stop the slide over?
This is a slide over.
How do you stop it? You want to get
All
rid
you
of
have to
it,
do is just swipe it over to the edge.
but
And
it's still
gone.
there. So how do you stop it totally? If
Well,
you hit that arrow, it'll open it, right?
yeah, you could just open it, oops, pull it over. Whoops, that's
Right.
my
That's something
that's
else.
my note. So it's still there. But if you want to just open up the Notes app, you can open up the Notes app. If you want to open up the slide over, you can just pull it open like that. If you want to open it up in full screen, you would just go full screen, and now it's in full screen.
What was the bar, that black bar at the bottom of it when it was in slide over?
The black, okay, so let's put this back into slide over. And we're going to go with, and you can actually have 2 notes open at the same time here. So you
Right.
could have a note on top of a note. So the black bar, what she's talking about here is this black bar. You can have multiple slide overs. Let's go and add another slide over to this. We're going to go with my messages here. I drag it on top. Let's go and add another one. We're going to go with the calendar here. I drag it on top. So now I have 3 apps in there that are slide over. If you take that little bar here, it's a little tricky. This is why I say don't get frustrated. I would say this would be more of an advanced kind of thing. Get used to opening up multiple windows. And I'm going to show you a trick on Windows as well, multiple windows. But what you are able to do with this is view all of your open slide overs. So then I can switch. But it's it's a gesture, so you have to figure out what the right, you have to grab it at the right spot. But you can easily, so that's how I want to go to my messages. All I have to do is I can go to my messages. I want to go back to my notes. I can do that. So you can switch between your apps using that little bar. Is that what you mean?
Well, you're grabbing that black bar to do it, but what if you want to stop having it as a slide over altogether?
Well, you just hide it.
Just hide.
Yep,
Okay,
just
but
hide it.
then how do you shut them? How do you stop them from being slide
Well,
overs?
apps, you don't quit apps on the iPad. And I'm one of those people that also say I have to tell my wife, I have to tell my friends, don't do this. Don't do, ding, 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 ding. Don't do that. Just leave them open. Apple has that optimize where they are put into a pause mode, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to quit out of them, unlike the Mac. It will go and release memory and all that. And in fact, the jury's out on it, but Apple has said that if you quit out of an app like that and then you need to reopen it, you're actually using more battery power. Because now it has to open everything back up again. And that's pretty much why people do that. And they're also used to quitting apps. But you don't really have to quit these apps. This was built from day one to handle, where you don't quit. They've never had a quit. So, it's more of a forced quit when you're having a problem. But typically, so you don't have to do that. Just put it off to the side and you're going to be good. So,
Dan, you want to show her how to take one of the slide over apps and then make it full screen again?
yeah, so what Steve's talking about there, so I have my slide over here. And if I wanted to make this full screen, I can go to the 3 dots and make it full screen. I can also drag this, and this is more advanced, but I can drag this over to the edge and you change it into a split view. Or
Right.
if you drag it up to the top,
Yeah,
it opens up in a separate
Oh.
window.
nice.
So now
what
it's
I'm
out
able-
of the slide over.
Yeah.
And it's its own
The
separate.
calendar is now a slide over. Yep, those are still there. And if I go to my overview, what I'm able to do, this is, I use swipe. I can easily swipe back and forth between my apps.
Thank you.
We'll go with multiple windows. This is a nice little trick as well when I'm talking about multitasking. So I have tabs up here, right? And let's say what I want to do is have Airtable in its own separate window, like this. And let's go back to my iPad. I want to have Dan's tutorials here as a separate. So when I swipe back and forth between them using this little trick here, it switches between my two Safari windows. How do I do that? I mean, they're all sitting here in my as tabs. Well, what you can do is you can take this, move it up to the top. This is what I just did. Now that is two separate windows. And I can go, let's go and take this one step further. CNN, drag it up to the top. So now I have all three. You want to see all those windows, right? I might have 3, 4 windows open, or I want to close one of them. Well, when you tap on these 3 dots here, what you get down at the bottom are all the windows. And I can go and add more windows. So now what I'm able to do is go to this window. I can go to this window. I can go to this window. And if I wanted to bring this one as a slide over, I can drag it up. I can tap on the 3 dots again. I believe I can take it and, nope, it looks like bring it up to the top. Separates it out.
You can do this all on a Mac too, right?
On a Mac? Yeah, I mean, window management. I can take it over here. And now you see I have 3 different Safari windows. One of them is a slide over. And 2 of them are just standard windows. And you want to see all the windows again? Tap on the 3 dots and you can see all of the windows. So, the window thing, it's a little tricky. But once you kind of get it, it makes sense. Tap on the 3 dots and you're going to see all those windows down at the bottom, and then you can do with them what you want. You want to close one of these windows? I don't need all these tabs open here. I'm just telling you don't have to do that. But maybe you want to close your Safari windows, just to keep it clean, just like you're force quitting. And you're going to see that I have my slide over. One of them is a slide over. It's a little skinnier than the other. So multiple windows can work, and you can do this in multiple apps. So if I go here, there's my new note. If I go to, I don't think calendar, let's find out. Oh, look at that. I can even open up 2 calendars, 2 calendar windows. So, if an app can handle multiple documents, then you can do that. So that brings me to apps. When I talk about like using Safari and things like that, so a lot of people use Google Sheets, and you're going to see that I have Google Sheets, Docs, all that kind of stuff, right? So if I open up my Docs here, I want to open up a new document. We just learned how to do that, right? I just go to the 3 dots at the top. If you look, I can't do it. Google Docs doesn't support multiple documents open on the iPad. But if I open up Google Docs in Safari, guess what I'm able to do? Have 2 different Google Docs open at the same time because they're in 2 different browsers or 2 different web browsers. So I can only this is why apps are good. Some apps are great, and some of them are just the opposite. This is one of those that are just the opposite. If you're playing around with Google Docs, Google Sheets, all that, your best bet is to go into Safari and go to Sheets. Is that what it is? Yeah. .google.com. And let's go to, let's see, a comparison, Model 3. My car, apparently this is an old dock that I had. And now what I'd like to do is open up another Google Doc. Okay, go to the three dots, tap on the plus. I go to Docs. And we'll go with Project Proposal. And now what I have is two different Google Docs open. You can't do that in Google Docs app. So not all apps, this is where a web browser, and it's getting to be more and more like this. A web browser can do more than what an app can in a lot of cases. And same thing with the Mac. I mean, in all honesty, when you go and download Spotify, you're downloading a web app for the most part. It's just wrapped in something. Microsoft with their Teams. If you download Excel or whatever, they use the same engine as what Spotify does, and they are now making it more native. But basically, it's a way for them to get away with doing it cheaply. They can cross-platform develop on one thing, and they just use a web. Basically, it's all driven by a web browser, and they just put a wrapper around it to make it look like an app. So in a lot of cases, an app is basically a web browser. In some cases, they strip features away, like with Airtable. I mean, it's okay. I can get a lot of things done with the Airtable app, but it is not the Airtable in browser. So you want to kind of stay with that. Favorite apps. I think that is, I'll tell you my favorite, there we go. Favorite apps. Oops. Yeah, this is the last one. Oops. Try it again. I recommend Notes. Notes are other ones out there, but really Notes has come a long way with their tags and all that. And Safari, obviously. The Mail app, it's good. It's getting better. As some of you know, I like Spark. Spark is a good mail app. And I recommend, if you haven't played around with, unless you can't do it, I know there's a lot of people that you can't use Pages, Numbers, and Keynote because of where they work and all that. But I am a huge Keynote and Numbers. Numbers being the Excel, Apple's Excel, Pages being Microsoft Word, and then Keynote being their PowerPoint. I believe that they are just as capable on the iPad as they are on the Mac. Apple has really made them the feature rich on all parts of them, and all devices, I should say. You can really make some cool stuff with those three apps, and unless you have to go with Excel or something like that, if you're just kind of doing this at home or whatever, download those three. You'll have a little struggle in the beginning. I know that, but boy, are they really nice. They've done a nice job with those. And when you put them on an iPad, you are going to get productivity class apps. Mail merges, they just added to Pages, dynamic backgrounds and Keynote, all on the iPad, and even on the iPhone. But just really good stuff. All right, that's what I have for that. I'm going to go through, we're going to take a look at these comments here. I have a new slide. We're going to see if this works. Perfect. All right, something new that I'm trying. Pull in comments from Zoom, but we can see them here. So let's go through here. Can you use a pen as a pseudo mouse? Absolutely. Basically, here we'll go with this. I'm just using my pen, and it really does. It's super convenient. I got to admit. Now I just, because it just, you don't have to put your finger on there. You just kind of. The only thing that you can't do, I can't get back home. So normally what you would do is you would swipe up from the bottom, right? But if we
I'll do
look,
it.
I can't get back home. I have to go swipe up. Now I can go back and do everything that I need to do. But that's probably the only thing that I've seen that you can't do. Oh, here's something. I just saw this shortly because I wanted to show you this. This is a cool app. This is one of my things is Explore. There's some really cool apps out there that you can't get on a Mac. You just can't do them. One of them, Math. This is from Microsoft. 3 times 6 plus 2 times 8. It figured all that out. Oh, let's go divided by 2. You can write formulas. Can't do that with a Mac. On top of that, you're going to see up at the top it has a scanner. If someone gave you a formula, this is for the numbers people out there. Someone gave you a formula, you could take a picture of it, and this app will sit there and try to figure out what the formula is. It's a great tool for teaching, I would imagine, for students, I would think. But you physically write the formula out. And then what I'm able to do, if I was teaching somebody, I could be like, well, actually, this is supposed to be a plus. I take the eraser. And let's just see what happens when we put a plus in there, how the formula changes. So you can kind of go through and show people, what happens when you make a change. You can't do that on a Mac. Just can't do it. I can't sit there and
What
write
app is
out.
this?
This is called, and it's free. Math. It's Microsoft. So just go for a Microsoft calculator. This little Math. Another one. This Jig. This is kind of cool.
Dan, you might be able to do that in Scribble.
What's
I think I
Scribble?
saw that as one of the highlights that you could actually put in a formula if you're using the Apple Pencil, and it would do it in real time too.
Oh, okay.
And you can go into Safari, and in the search bar, you can put in some math, and it will calculate it.
Right. Yep. But this is where you can write it out. I basically want to show you that what you can do is, there are things on the iPad that, everyone always says, well, the iPad can't do that. I'm trying to reverse that and say, a Mac can't do that. And there are certain things that it can't do. Here's another one. You want to see how a jet engine works? View and AR. So I need to point my camera at a surface here. Oops, I unplugged it. Sorry. Get back to it here. Come on, you can do it. There it is. I'm going to point. There it is. There's my. And I can rotate it, slowly move your device around. I'm on a cable here, but you can kind of get the idea. I'm looking into a jet engine here.
I see a few birds in there.
Right? Again, not something you're going to do on a Mac.
Dan, can I ask you a question about the apps again?
Yeah.
I find that iMovie is not as robust on an iPad as it is on my Mac. The transitions were limited to 4. It's kind of frustrating. I give up a little bit doing my iMovies on an iPad versus the Mac. Can you comment on that?
So, and what app is that?
iMovie. Movie.
Yes, that is one that is limited. They haven't made iMovie on par. For the most part it is, but it's not on par. You can do more than 4 transitions in it, though.
No, you can't.
Not that I want to prove you wrong, but that's really surprising. We'll let that download. But what I do on my personal iPad, it's not here. I downloaded Luminar Pro or something like that, and it's an app that you can add multiple tracks and all kinds of good stuff to it. So, but that's where you just have to find another app that may do that. So, I I need to update my iMovie tutorials. They're getting pretty old, so I need to do that. All right, let's go back to my comments here. Series 1 pencil doesn't work. Yep. Charges much faster than the Series 1. It's amazing when you put this pencil how fast it does charge on there. Scribble is available in iOS 15. Yep, that's where I was able to write Dan's tutorials in the URL. I think that little test thing that I did may not be available, but maybe that is too. So Tom loves the Bridge keyboard, and it is. They've been around for 3 or 4 years now, right, Tom? I think.
Yes.
And they're heavy duty. I mean, they're nice. I don't mean that in heavy, but they're built nice, right?
They are heavy.
Yeah. And one of the reasons was switch to the keyboard, too heavy. Speaking of that, let's see here. Tom or Steve making a joke.
Guilty.
Yep. Oh yeah, Steve emailed this to a bunch of people earlier today. You know, there are some free apps, and today's is The Art of the Piano. It's a bigger app, but can you tell us about it, Steve? What it does? Again, you're not going to get this on an iPad on a Mac, but
Sure. I think it'll work on an iPhone too,
Yeah.
but it's really something you should use on an iPad because of the screen space and to take advantage of some of the features. But it was created by a Russian musician. It features videos of 8 different performances from Bach to Mozart to a few of the Russian names I can't pronounce. And the pieces are performed, and you have multiple camera angles as he's performing them. And you have a scrolling music sheet of the music in real time as he's performing them. And you can also turn on a commentary so you can hear him explain different parts of the pieces and how difficult it is or what he liked about it as it's being performed also, if you wanted to too. So for fans of classical piano, I'd grab it today while it's free because it's very impressive.
Yep, I would agree. Thanks. I'll go back to iMovie. Yep.
Dan, can you go back to my comment about using Safari? Because this is something that I can't really resolve properly. When I use Safari, and let's say that it's a health website and they generate a PDF. Okay? I go to the PDF in Safari. I can't open immediately that PDF in Files. I have to use the share button, send it to Chrome, and then in Chrome, I can send it to Files right away because it has that open in.
All right. When you need to move PDF that appear when I use Safari. So are you downloading a PDF, or
So let's
are
say
you
that
taking a
I'm
screenshot?
So let's say that I'm in a health website, and the health website takes me to a link, which is a PDF.
Okay, gotcha.
If I'm in Safari, I don't see something at the bottom of the screen that says open in. But if I'm in Chrome on my iPad Pro, it does.
Let's see. I
can relate to this, Dan, in that sometimes when you tap on the share button, you might see the actual icon of the Files app in the row of apps at the top to send it to. When you don't, you should see it open in Files or save to Files in the options of commands right below that. So it's weird how sometimes it'll appear as an icon and other times you just have to find the command for it down below.
Right.
I think also too, it's a matter of it downloading to Safari first before it can be transferred to Files, or you may even have an option that says open in Books or tap on the Books app and open it.
I'm trying to find a PDF that I can download. You'd think, how to download? Because I think somebody's got to have a PDF, right? Free download. What is this? Download Mac, DMG. I don't want that. But I don't know
But do you follow what I'm saying?
I don't know directly. I'd like to find, but if you control click, I know that I would say try this and let me know if this works. But if you control click on it, so I'm hold down the control key and you get this little sub menu here. Now,
Yeah.
iPad OS 16 greatly advanced on this, but you're going to see down at the bottom here, I have share.
Okay.
And from here, what I'm able to do is save it, to Dropbox. Up here is probably, see, I'm not on a file, so I need to find a file.
I just sent you a link in the direct message and chat to you, Dan.
Let's see here. Okay, so now I have to get that link. While I do this, somebody asks, is there any stability issues with iPad OS 16? And I'm going to say, surprisingly, there isn't any stability issues with anything. I mean, I just put the Watch OS on last night because everything just seems to be working so well with these betas. It's crazy. Let's see here. Let's go with Johnny. I need to send it to that iPad. We're going to try this here. But now the problem with this, Steve, so what Steve did is he sent me you sent me the PDF. We want to have that in a web page.
The Portland group did it so that it will load directly in Safari.
Yeah, so here's what Steve sent me. And if I tap on that,
open Safari and loads it.
Oh, it did open up Safari. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, speaking of beta, there we go. Try it again. There it is. So what you want to do is you want to save this to your Files app.
So she would tap the share button.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, at the bottom of the page, it would show open in.
Yeah.
And then I can open in Files. But
here's where you would go to the share button up here, and you're going to see where it is, save to files.
Okay, so up to now, maybe it's because I'm not using Pad OS 16 yet.
I believe that's available in iPad OS 15 as well.
Yes.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, I will try it then. Thank you.
Let me know. And if it doesn't work, as long as it's public information, don't send me anything. But and I'll see if I can find a page that has a link to a PDF. But I know. Here we can go.
I have the same problems with PDFs.
Is it with PDFs or with?
No, it's PDFs.
Just PDFs.
I mean, and I've clicked around. I think I figured a way around it. But so when she was asking that question, I know what you're talking about. It's just not user friendly. You can get around it,
right? But
it's not user friendly.
And that is where, I hate to say it, I say use Safari, but Safari's not perfect, and that's why you keep other browsers. And you might just have to go to that other browser for that kind of thing. You might. If it makes it easier, absolutely. But I would say try to stick with Safari as your default browser because it does offer more features. But by no means does that mean that you have to be exclusive to Safari. So,
Dan?
Yeah.
Dan, sorry about my voice. I had a throat operation, so I need to talk slow. But when I use Safari and I go to the settings, what search engine do you have in your settings on Safari?
Okay, so Well, here we'll go. Yeah, you're looking at my iPad here. We'll come back to this. I'm going to try to download something. So what he's talking about is in Safari, you can set your search engine. Ding, ding, ding. Safari here.
There. You went past it.
There it is. What you can do is you can set your search engine. Generally speaking, I use Google, to be honest with you. Bing and DuckDuckGo are pretty good, but DuckDuckGo uses Bing. And what I just discovered recently on my own site, ironically, is the way that a lot of these search engines discover your site is you publish a sitemap. So what I do is I have a sitemap for my site, and it uploads it over to Google, and then Google sends their little robot down and indexes my site, and it puts it into their search engine, and blah, 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 blah. If you don't have that site index, basically what has to happen is the search engine would have to stumble upon your site. And I don't have a lot of people that link to my site. It's not like one of these big sites. So with the billions of sites that are out there, it's going to be pretty far-fetched that they would stumble upon it. And this is what I found out with Bing. I did not have I just did this 2 weeks ago. I did not have a sitemap for Bing. So if you were to go to Bing or DuckDuckGo and search for Dan's tutorials, you know what you would get? Dance tutorials. You wouldn't see my site at all. You could go to DuckDuckGo and Bing, and it just would not, because they did not know about my site. And I like to think that I kind of know what I'm doing, and I completely missed that up until 2 weeks ago. So, Google, good or bad, Google is the king. There's some other ones that are starting to creep up. I have not messed around with Ecosia. I think that's how you pronounce it. But that's another one that's kind of creeping up. But DuckDuckGo and Bing, DuckDuckGo uses Bing. A lot of them use Bing. Bing kind of farms theirs out. And it's good. It's just not great.
Thank you.
So here I'm going to download a sample. This is not a PDF, but it's an EPUB. And really the way that it should work is a document is a document on a website. It doesn't really matter what kind it is for the most part. So I'm going to see if my little trick works here. Tap and hold. Share. Looking for, files is down here. Save to Dropbox. Yeah, interesting. I'll have to look into that. And that is one of the pitfalls of I have to open it up, and now it'll download it. But a PDF would open it up in the browser, and then you'd have to share it. So I kind of see what you're saying with that. And that's just not, that's why I love Apple and all that. But some of you have heard me say I'm not a huge fan of their App Store, and I don't like how they are locking everybody into WebKit. That kind of defeats the whole. Maybe somebody could come out with a better engine and faster. That's how Firefox and Chrome and Safari, all of them, they're competing with each other through different manners, and you're not getting that on the iPad and iPhone. All you're getting is WebKit, and Apple's reasoning is it's security. I get that, absolutely, but it also kind of stifles competition. You might think you're getting a different browser, but in all reality, you're not. There's little nuances that are different, but for the most part, the engine behind it, and I would like them to open it up. But that's my soapbox. All right, I think I went through everything. Anyone have any last questions before we wrap this up? It has been an hour and 45 minutes, so I'd like to wrap this up sooner than later, if that's okay.
Yeah, Dan, I asked the question, and when you did the closeout, when you said not to swipe up, I guess I'm confused about that. I do it all the time. And the reason is I'd have 50 apps open, and so when do they close down if you don't close them by just swiping up? You're saying don't do it though, so I'm confused.
Well, why do you do it? I'll
Because
ask that. Let's reverse the question.
So I can go ahead and have clean screen.
And I think
Yeah.
that's muscle memory from being a Mac user.
Right. That's
Mac users, we were so sensitive to how much RAM we had. and how many apps we could actually have open at one time, that we kept quitting them all the time.
I don't really care how many of these apps are open. It doesn't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother me at all either. However, every so often, my iPad Pro and now my new iPad Air, they act wonky unless I do that. Even if I close one or two of them, it's been giving me troubles. It could be an Apple situation, could be my server, but I
Right.
don't think I'm doing anything wrong. But
There's nothing wrong with going through and doing this, and you know, so if you want to keep doing that, go ahead. I mean, it's fine. But you know, a lot of people do it because they think it's saving battery life, and in all reality, it's not. The idea behind all this, and it really depends. An app has to, you know, follow Apple's rules, and sometimes they don't. But the idea is when any of these apps are in the background, they are basically paused. They're paused. They should not be taking up any more memory. Like Steve was saying, it should release that memory. It should, if it's a well-written app, that's what should happen. Now, granted, not every app is well-written. You know, I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's just, you know, it's just happens sometimes. You know, you could have a new developer that's just learning stuff. Well, they're going to make mistakes. But you know, Apple shouldn't approve that app, you know, then at that point. So yeah, there's going to be little things. I just, as you can see, I don't run into any problem. And if I were to show you let's see here.
Are they collecting data when they're open in the background?
No. Not any data outside of, no, they shouldn't be collecting, you know, any data. And that's the whole thing. When one of my favorite apps, I did a tutorial on it, is this paste. And with the paste, what we're able to do is keep track of things that we've pasted, like a clipboard history. If this app is in the background, it doesn't do it. It doesn't keep track of any history. So what I have to do is I have to actually open up that app as a slide over. Oops, try it again. Now it's going to keep track of, because it's open. When that is in the background, it's not doing anything. And you know, it's okay if you want to close everything. I don't want to, you know, there's nothing wrong with it outside of, you know, it doesn't save the battery life. That's pretty much why a lot of people do it. It doesn't. Apple has said it doesn't save the battery life, but on the flip side, I've heard them also say the opposite. You know, I'll go
I've copied something to the clipboard, but then I can't find clipboard to find it to put it somewhere else. Like I was syncing a couple units, a couple things, and I needed to use the clipboard for the words, and I couldn't find it to send it in an email on the clipboard. How do I find the clipboard where I pasted something? I've copied something, and now it's in the clipboard.
You have to paste it, and it can only the iPad can only keep track of, well, on the Mac too, it can only keep track of one thing at a time. So as soon as you copy something else, it replaces whatever it copied with your new copy. So
okay,
it doesn't.
Now I want to retrieve that and put it in an email. How do I do that?
So if I were
Copy
to
one item to clipboard.
Yeah. So I mean, that's copy and paste. So let's just go to. Well, you're going to see it says. Oh, you're not looking at my iPad. You're going to see it says paste there. So I copied something. I can just go and paste it. So if I let's go to Wikipedia. I want to copy this URL. So I tap on it, you're going to see copy. So now I just copied it, it's in the clipboard, whatever. I can go to notes. And paste, there it is. I can go in wherever and paste it. So you just tap, you're going to see the little menu and you paste.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'll end with, I'll show you my personal phone here.
As you open that up, Dan, I was just going to say that I think you probably would agree with me that one thing that's a good compromise or habit is to power down your device once a month.
Yeah, yes, you should do that. And you can see how many apps I have open on this guy.
Ooh, Ferris wheel.
Yeah. My brother's got me on, I'm watching YouTube videos of carnival rides, how they set up carnival rides, because it's amazing how they fold those. Now I'm really digressing, but how they fold those things up and put them on a trailer. Like, what? Who designed that? You know, kind of thing. It's amazing. All right, I'm going to end the recording here. And so I'll say my thanks, everyone. I will have this up probably tomorrow. It should be up by tomorrow on my site. And you can review it at that time. And thanks again. Next week will be an AMA, Ask Me Anything. Thanks. Thanks for your support. And if you are not a member, check out my site.